Today's Dallas Cowboys rumors really highlight where this franchise is right now, and honestly, it's a crossroads that Cowboys fans know all too well. We're talking about a team with talent, a team with star power, but also a team that keeps circling the same issues year after year, and that starts at the very top. One of the biggest mailbag questions I keep getting is whether the Cowboys need a new owner and a new general manager. Now, obviously, Jerry Jones isn't selling the team, and Stephen Jones isn't going anywhere. But when fans ask that question, what they're really saying is that they want accountability, modern thinking, and a front office that's willing to be aggressive when the window is open. The Cowboys have operated like a conservative business instead of a ruthless football organization, and that mindset has shown up in free agency, in trade deadlines, and even in how they value their own players. That brings us right into one of the wildest but most interesting trade ideas floating around for the 2026 NFL Draft, which is the idea of trading both Cowboys' first-round picks to the Bengals in exchange for their first-round pick and a second-rounder. Now, on the surface, that feels like a lot to give up, but context matters. If the Cowboys believe they'll be picking in the late teens or 20s both years, packaging those picks to move up for a true franchise-altering player could actually make sense. The key question is whether Dallas would have the courage to do it, because historically, this front office values volume over boldness. The Bengals, on the other hand, might be looking to reload cheaply around Joe Burrow if their cap situation tightens. This is the kind of forward-thinking move contending teams make, but the Cowboys rarely play chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Another trade rumor that has Cowboys fans buzzing is the idea of Max Crosby for George Pickens. This is the type of deal that splits the fan base right down the middle. On one hand, Pickens gives you a young, explosive wide receiver with WR1 traits. But on the other hand, Max Crosby is a defensive culture changer. He's a relentless edge rusher, a tone setter, and the exact type of player Dan Quinn used to build around. If the Cowboys truly want to fix their defense, Crosby makes more sense than almost any receiver, especially when you consider how inconsistent Dallas has been at generating pressure when Micah Parsons is neutralized. The problem is that the Cowboys have traditionally valued offensive skill players over defensive dominance, and that philosophy has cost them in January. Free agency is another area where fans are desperate to see real spending, not bargain bin shopping. Every year we hear about selective aggression, and every year the Cowboys sit on cap space while elite players change teams. This offseason should be different, especially with the defense needing reinforcements at safety, linebacker, and defensive end. Jaquan Brisker from the Bears is a name that makes a lot of sense. He's physical, instinctive, and plays with an edge that the Cowboys' secondary has lacked. Pairing him with a ball-hawking safety would give Dallas a much more versatile back end. Quay Walker from Green Bay is another intriguing target. He's fast, rangy, and can stay on the field in all three downs, something the Cowboys have struggled to find at linebacker for years. Then there's the pass rush conversation, which brings up names like Joey Bosa and A.J. Epineza. Joey Bosa is the bigger name, and when healthy, he's still a difference maker, but availability is the concern. If the Cowboys go that route, it has to be on a smart, incentive-heavy deal. A.J. Epineza, meanwhile, is a quieter signing that could pay off. He's younger, durable, and still ascending. Dallas has missed on too many aging veterans. Epineza would represent a shift towards sustainable roster building. Draft-wise, Cowboys fans should keep an eye on players like C.J. Allen and Caleb Downs. C.J. Allen fits exactly what this defense needs at linebacker: physical, disciplined, and reliable. He's not flashy, but championship defenses are built on players like him. Caleb Downs is the kind of safety prospect that doesn't come around often. He has elite instincts, range, and football IQ, and he could immediately transform the Cowboys' secondary. If Dallas has a chance to land a player like Downs, that's when trading up becomes a real conversation. There's also the internal decisions that can't be ignored. Eric Kendricks re-signing would make sense if the price is right. He brought leadership and stability to the linebacker room, but Dallas can't overpay for past production. Terrence Steele is another tough call. Bringing him back on a pay cut feels reasonable, but only if the Cowboys have a real backup plan. The offensive line has quietly become one of the most fragile parts of this roster, and that's not something you can ignore if you want to protect your quarterback in January. Finally, the defensive coordinator search is critical. This hire will tell us everything about where the Cowboys think they are as a team. Do they want another aggressive, attacking defense? Or are they going to lean conservative and hope talent carries them? The wrong hire keeps this team stuck in neutral. The right hire, paired with real investment in free agency and a bold approach to the draft, could finally push Dallas over the hump. When you step back and look at all these rumors, trades, and targets, the theme is clear. Cowboys fans aren't asking for miracles. They're asking for intention. They want a front office that acts like a contender, not a brand. Until that changes, the rumors will keep coming, the debates will keep raging, and the Cowboys will remain the most talked-about team in the NFL without the results to match. Flexibility, and perhaps most importantly, a sense that the franchise is finally positioned to attack the future instead of merely surviving it. At his end-of-season press conference, Jerry Jones spoke with optimism about the team's ability to add quality players through both the draft and free agency, and he traced that confidence back to a decision made at the very beginning of the 2025 season, a decision that has quietly reshaped the Cowboys' financial and competitive outlook. Jones described the vision behind the Micah Parsons trade and hinted that the true benefits of that move are still ahead, not behind, suggesting that what the Cowboys were really trying to achieve is only now coming into focus. Away from the microphones and cameras, Jones went even further, floating the idea of busting the budget in pursuit of his long-stated personal goal, becoming the NFL owner with the most Super Bowl championships. He currently sits 3 titles behind New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, and at this stage of his career, that gap clearly weighs on him. When Jerry Jones talks this way, it forces the league, and especially Cowboys fans, to ask a dangerous but exciting question. Could Dallas actually become aggressive in free agency? Right now, the Cowboys' salary cap situation looks less like a clean spreadsheet and more like a Monet painting, slightly blurry and dependent on where you stand. What is clear is that Dallas must clear cap space to comply with the 2026 limit, but the exact number won't be finalized until early March when the league officially sets the cap. As things stand, the Cowboys have roughly $330 million in contracts on the books, while league projections place the cap somewhere between $295 and $305 million. Even under conservative estimates, that means Dallas must find at least $30 million just to get under the cap before making a single addition. And that number could grow quickly if the team applies the franchise tag to wide receiver George Pickens, a move that would immediately add close to $28 million to the cap. At first glance, this might sound like a financial nightmare, but the reality is far more manageable because the Cowboys have built their roster with restructures in mind. Dallas can generate upward of $100 million in cap space by restructuring contract for Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, Osa Odigizua, Darren Bland, and Jake Ferguson, simply by reducing base salaries to the league minimum and converting the rest into bonuses. However, not every restructure is created equal, and there are legitimate long-term consequences to consider. Fully restructuring Dak Prescott's deal, for example, would push nearly $8 million per year into future cap figures from 2027 through 2031, ballooning his cap hit to over $75 million in 2027 and more than $85 million in 2028. While that move would provide immediate relief, it would also mortgage the future, and the Cowboys must decide whether short-term flexibility is worth long-term strain. A partial restructure may be the wiser path, preserving flexibility without completely overloading future seasons. The situation with Darren Bland is even more delicate. Coming off his second foot surgery in as many years, Bland presents both upside and risk. His fully guaranteed money expires after this season, which gives the Cowboys a relatively clean exit option in 2027 if things go south. Restructuring his deal now would increase future cap commitments at a time when his durability is uncertain. For that reason, the smartest approach may be to keep Bland's contract untouched unless circumstances force the team's hand later in free agency, during the summer, or near the trade deadline. The good news is that other restructures carry far less risk. By reworking the contracts of C.D. Lamb and Tyler Smith alone, Dallas can free up roughly $36 million in cap space, money that can immediately be put to use. If the Cowboys want to push even further, they can look toward extensions for defensive tackles Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark, both of whom are under contract through 2027. Clark, in particular, is due an $11 million roster bonus by March 13th, creating urgency that could be leveraged into a cap-friendly extension. These types of moves highlight just how much flexibility the Cowboys actually have if they choose to use it. Among their 15 unrestricted free agents, 3 stand above the rest in importance. George Pickens, running back Javonte Williams, and defensive end Jadeveon Clowney. All 3 have expressed a desire to return, but each represents a very different challenge. Pickens is the most complicated. After arriving via trade from Pittsburgh, he delivered career highs across the board with 93 receptions, 1,412 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He is now positioned to demand top-of-the-market receiver money, potentially exceeding the $34 million per year deal C.D. Lamb signed 2 years ago. That reality is why many around the league believe Dallas will apply the franchise tag, buying time, but also introducing the possibility of off-season tension. The Cowboys dealt with a training camp hold-in from Micah Parsons last year, and Pickens shares the same agency, Athletes First, raising the possibility of a similar standoff. Clowney's market value has also risen. He led the Cowboys with 8.5 sacks and finished the season strong despite entering his 13th NFL year. He has emphasized his desire to participate fully in the off-season program and training camp, something he believes will allow him to be more physically prepared than he was when he joined the team late last season. His on-field production is critical for a pass rush that struggled in 2025, and his off-field leadership has earned praise from head coach Brian Schottenheimer, particularly for his mentorship of younger players like Donovan Ezra. Javonte Williams presents a different kind of dilemma. He rushed for 1,201 yards, the most by a Cowboys running back since Ezekiel Elliott in 2019, but he did so on a $3 million salary. On the open market, that number is likely to double on a multi-year deal. Dallas can argue that production at running back can be found anywhere, pointing to Williams himself and Rico Dowdle, an undrafted free agent who also topped 1,000 yards. Whether the Cowboys are willing to pay Williams' market value will say a lot about how they view positional spending. Beyond unrestricted free agency, Dallas must also navigate restricted free agents, most notably All-Pro kicker Brandon Aubrey. Because he was undrafted, Aubrey is a candidate for the second-round tender, projected at just over $6 million. The Cowboys discussed a multi-year extension with his agent last summer, but failed to reach an agreement. Those talks could resume, potentially making Aubrey the highest-paid kicker in the league, while keeping his 2026 cap hit below the tender number. Guard T.J. Bass and Brock Hoffman also factor into this picture, both undrafted players who have proven reliable. Bass started 5 games last season and has shown he can hold down left guard if Tyler Smith stays at tackle, making him a strong candidate for a short multi-year deal that buys out his 2027 trends, positional value, and how these prospects might shape the future of teams like Dallas. This is about projection, development, and understanding how the modern NFL is evolving. Mel Kiper's board always sparks debate, and this year is no different. What immediately stands out is the heavy emphasis on quarterback play at the very top. That tells us something important right away. The 2026 class is shaping up to be defined by leadership, decision-making, and offensive control. In today's NFL, that's the currency teams are willing to pay top dollar for. Let's start at number 1. Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. Mendoza being ranked first overall may surprise casual fans, but when you turn on the tape, the logic becomes clear. He's calm in the pocket, processes defenses quickly, and doesn't panic under pressure. His mechanics are clean, and while he may not be the flashiest quarterback athletically, his football IQ and accuracy give him a very high floor. In a league where mistakes at quarterback can cost coaches their jobs, Mendoza represents stability. For teams looking to reset their franchise, that matters more than highlight throws. Right behind him is Dante Moore from Oregon, another quarterback but a very different style. Moore brings more natural arm talent and creativity. He can extend plays, attack downfield, and thrive in modern spread concepts. However, his game is still being refined. Decision-making consistency will be the key factor that determines whether he challenges Mendoza for QB1 status by draft time. From a Cowboys perspective, even if quarterback is an immediate need, this kind of talent always forces front offices to evaluate long-term options. At number 3, we see the first non-quarterback, Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame. Running backs rarely crack the top 5 anymore, which tells you just how special Love is viewed. He combines vision, burst, and balance in a way that translates cleanly to the NFL. He's not just a runner. He's a complete offensive weapon. In Dallas, where offensive balance has historically been crucial, a player like Love would immediately raise questions about how teams value elite running backs in the modern game. Moving to number 4, Arvell Reese, linebacker from Ohio State, represents the continued importance of defensive versatility. Reese is not just a traditional linebacker. He's a space defender, a communicator, and a tone setter. He can cover tight ends, shoot gaps, and quarterback the defense. For teams like the Cowboys, who have invested heavily in defensive speed and flexibility, Reese fits the profile of what modern defenses demand. At number 5, Francis Mauigoa, offensive tackle from Miami, reminds us that the trenches still matter. Quarterbacks can't operate without protection,